And in today's episode of Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings, a very quick look at what's currently happening in the US and by proxy many other parts of the world due to sky-high interest rates and scam-demic lockdown-induced supply chain challenges driving inflation. In other words, interest rates are high and things cost more than they used to, plus your money's worth less than it was. I wonder if this could be impacting the automotive industry at all. Cathie Wood of ARK Invest has some thoughts.
To pull here, talk about real economic activity. So we're into the further into the economic indicators here, and housing affordability has been destroyed with the interest rate hikes that we've seen over the last year and a half.
So I just want to take a quick moment to pause here. This data goes back into the late 80s. Let's just say starting at 1990, but a little bit behind there. Housing affordability in the United States is currently at its lowest level in more than 3 decades, not years, decades. More importantly, however, is how quickly housing affordability has plummeted, because this can massively affect consumer sentiment. If things had been slowly getting worse over time, incrementally, wouldn't be so much of an issue. But look what's happened recently. Housing affordability, per this index and its measurement scale, in the span of a couple of years has halved. It's currently rock bottom. Yet rewind just a couple of years, it was nearly at all-time highs. So this is worth understanding because it can massively affect consumer sentiment.
And you can see that in this chart, the National Association of Realtors Housing Affordability Index. In fact, I think you have to go back to the early 80s, late 70s to see affordability ratios as low as we are seeing them now. And of course, housing, by some measures, sales are down 40%. Here's existing home sales. And you can see we are below where we were during COVID when the economy just screeched to a halt. And we are in the same territory where we were in 08-09.
This is quite staggering. You guys remember when literally everyone thought the world was ending and the fascist shutdowns has prevented people from doing anything, including attending home inspections, auctions, sales, leaving their fucking house, selling their house? Remember when everyone thought the world was ending a few years ago and it wasn't, and I said it wasn't, but anyway, that's another story. There are less homes in the United States being sold now than there were during the worst moment of the scamdemic, and not that far off the trough in the global financial crisis. Please take a moment to let that sink in. Once again, we've seen earlier housing affordability, and now the data on the other end of that, home sales, because if you can't afford a house, guess what? You can't buy one, therefore you won't buy one. This, of course, essentially a direct result of the insane interest rate hikes. Now think about this for a moment. If you're a consumer anywhere and you're considering making a big ticket purchase like, I don't know, a new vehicle, yet at the same time, housing affordability is at its lowest rate ever, interest rates having approximately doubled in the span of a couple of years, could this possibly affect your decision-making regarding some big-ticket items like housing and vehicles, which are the two big-ticket purchases people make? I, of course, don't know the answer. I'm just asking out loud. What do you guys think? Could this be having an effect on the automotive industry? Could this be affecting consumer sentiment? Whether or not households are willing to spend money on big items? Interesting question to ponder.
When we were going through the biggest financial crisis of our lives. So that just gives you a sense of how depressed the housing market is. And people are just not going to move because they have 2.5%, 3% mortgage rates, and they don't want to roll over into 7.5%, 8% mortgage rates or higher. So trapped, I think, is a good word for that. Another very cyclical sector, the auto sector. You can see it's a mature sector. It doesn't get much above 17.5, 18 million units. Hasn't since 85, except on rare occasions. And yet you can see from this chart that we never got back there. And sales at 15, roughly 15.5 million units, are very slow by historical standards. And we think they're going to start falling again. This is a big ticket item. Unemployment, we believe, is going up. Students are now having to repay those loans after a 2-year plus moratorium. And so this kind of big ticket is going to suffer, we believe.
So again, I just want to take a moment here. I agree with Cathie Wood. Just want to make sure that everyone's really oriented around this data. There are a couple of massive outliers here, about 86, 2001, 2005. Huge spikes in automotive sales in single years. Were those not on this chart, the data would probably tap out at around 18 million units sold in a single year. As we can see, it's extremely cyclical. One more time, extremely cyclical. The automotive industry is extremely cyclical. Were it not, this would be fairly stable. Now, after the scamdemic, we saw a huge collapse in automotive sales, a huge rebound in automotive sales, now another collapse, another slight rebound. A lot of volatility lately, but still a smidge over 15 million units annualized as I record this. If Cathie Wood and ARK Invest are correct, and they probably are, and we saw automotive sales fall further, this is going to be very, very bad for companies trying to sell vehicles. I know that's kind of an obvious thing to say, but it's worth understanding. The entire automotive industry is currently going through a huge transition to electric vehicles. Most of these companies won't make it because they can't profitably produce compelling electric vehicles. These companies are currently reliant upon the sales of their highly profitable internal combustion engine vehicles. However, there's this company called Tesla who have the most compelling electric vehicles by far, have the most scale by far, and have a huge cost advantage and are simultaneously dictating terms of pricing in the automotive industry. If there's further pressure on automotive sales, this means there's going to be further pressure on Tesla to push prices lower. Good thing is, that's already in their master plan. They're going to keep driving costs down and passing those savings on. However, if you're a company attempting to produce electric vehicles and compete in the same marketplace as Tesla, and Tesla has the flexibility of driving their prices lower to keep selling through volume, even if this is one of the worst times for the automotive industry in years. And remember, despite the fact that it looked like automotive sales have rebounded quite strongly, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. There was a huge rebound after the scamdemic-induced supply chain explosion. Never seen that happen before. However, after that, a huge collapse and another strong rebound. We haven't really seen this before. Like a bouncing ball, eventually it's going to settle where it settles. But we may be getting the false impression that automotive sales are rebounding a lot more than they actually are. Keep this in mind. Now, the other thing to understand is the companies currently producing internal combustion engine vehicles make a lot of money on those and make no money. In fact, they lose staggering amounts of money on their electric vehicles. If at the same time the entire industry is transitioning from internal combustion engine to electric and there's downward pressure on automotive sales, this is going to be a double whammy for companies like Ford, General Motors, Volkswagen, Toyota, pick your legacy automotive manufacturer. If history is anything to go by, and look, it's not a predictor of the future, and we notice the cyclical nature of the automotive industry, where do you think automotive sales end up from here? It's worth pondering.
And so that will contribute to the recession we see ahead. Again, this has been part of a rolling recession. It's been on its way down for a while. And I'm going to present now 3 charts from our friends at ISI Evercore. They do surveys of economic activity every week. And one of the things you've heard me say on In the Know is that we are watching our companies report and listening to these earnings calls. And companies are basically saying it's getting really bad out there. But we weren't seeing the same thing from economic statistics. And we were puzzled why markets would pay attention to macro indicators when companies themselves are saying, something is not right out there. Now, you will hear the way that the financial news broadcasts talk about earnings. They'll say, revenues beat expectations, earnings beat expectations, but those expectations have been pulled down all quarter. Revenue and earnings are weak. And I think according to our analysis, and this is pretty fresh, about 30% of all companies in the S&P 500 have reported revenue growth that is negative on a year-over-year basis. You don't see that in the macro statistics. But more and more companies are reporting that revenues are falling on a year-over-year basis. So
let's just say that the automotive industry, in terms of annualized sales, continues to remain cyclical. We've got decades of data suggesting this is how things play out. Sometimes the cycle time is shorter, sometimes longer, but generally speaking, we see a very similar trend. From peak to trough here, the first cycle, a shade over 15 million units, bottoming out at less than 10. Round 2, and again, if we don't include some of the anomalous data there, around 15 million to just over 10. Anyone noticing a trend here? Third cycle, similar, slightly more strength getting close to 17.5 million vehicles sold at an annualized rate, down to just under 10. And we now find ourselves in round 4. Again, peaking at around 17.5 million units, appearing to be trending lower. The question is, where does this bottom out? Again, if Cathie Wood and ARK Investor right, if this cycle continues, it's possible that automotive sales in the United States could fall from an annualized rate of around 15 million as I record this, to around 10 million, a decline of a third, 33%, 5 million vehicles gone, not sold. At the exact same time, automotive manufacturers are desperately reliant upon the sale of their currently but not for long profitable ICE vehicles in an attempt to fund their transition to electric vehicles, which is probably going to cause them to go bankrupt anyway. Let me describe what a company might look like if they were well positioned to weather this storm in the automotive industry, which has been predominantly driven by interest rates. Of course, no company like this actually exists, but let's just describe the ideal company to survive this brutal period of time. They would already be producing more electric vehicles than any other company on the planet. They would already be making more money producing those electric vehicles per vehicle sold than any other company on the planet. In other words, they would have scale and massive cost advantages. They would have extremely loyal customers, billions of dollars of cash in the bank, and still be printing billions of dollars every quarter. They would have already previously invested aggressively in a number of other growth projects that could potentially turn on huge profits in the near, medium, and long term. They would have other elements of their business that are extremely profitable and growing at a staggering rate as well. I don't know, maybe like energy storage products with close to 25% margins, growing at an insane rate. They'd have the world's best talent, the best engineers, a culture that's extremely resourceful, lean, and efficient. They'd continue to innovate in terms of manufacturing. They'd have new products in the pipeline to massively reduce the cost for consumers to purchase a compelling electric vehicle. I don't know, maybe like a next generation vehicle that could start as low as $25,000, which would be dependent on an entirely new manufacturing system, maybe a modular manufacturing system. Never been done before, of course. They'd also have far and away the best software. They'd also have developed, designed, and be manufacturing their own battery cells. In fact, they'd also have been going up and down the supply chain. They'd be constructing their own lithium refinery because the lithium is going to be important for the batteries, meaning even more cost reductions over time. They'd also have the most comprehensive charging network to the point where other companies were licensing access. They'd also have the most compelling software in the future, able to unlock robo-taxis over the air with a software update, and they'd already been in discussions with automotive manufacturers to license that technology. Now, I would just like to take a few moments to discuss advertising. I'm going there. Oh no, look out. Now, don't get your panties in a twist here, ladies and gentlemen. But if it were true that you could just advertise your way out of a recession, then why is it that all the automotive manufacturers in the United States just didn't run ads when their automotive sales were declining, from peaks of over 15 million down toward 10, collapsing by about a third every cycle? How curious, how consistent. Why didn't they just run ads so that tails of their vehicles just remain steady the entire time? Like, wouldn't that make more sense? Keep things stable, keep your factories running at full capacity, no layoffs necessary. I mean, you would think that you just run some ads, right, if you could advertise your way out of a recession. So maybe it's possible that you can't advertise your way out of a recession. And if that's the case, I guess the best strategy would be to have the most compelling products and have scale and have huge pricing advantages so that you could adjust pricing and keep selling through volume, while your so-called competition, given the fact that they're not really making any money or they're losing a lot of money on their vehicles, would just have to sell less, because the more they sell, the cheaper they'd have to sell them and the more money they'd lose and the faster they'd go bankrupt. Of course, it's not like any automotive manufacturers have ever gone bankrupt during any of these troughs in automotive sales, right? So I guess I don't really know what I'm talking about anyway. Now, I just thought I'd rewind the clock a little bit for some historical context. Would you guys be surprised to know that a number of companies went bankrupt and or were acquired, merged, or bailed out in the 1980s? DeLorean Motor Company being probably the most notable, went bankrupt in 1982. Fancy that. AMC, American Motors Corporation, didn't quite go bankrupt in the 80s, but guess what? They faced significant financial challenges and were eventually purchased by Chrysler in 87. Is it possible that the collapse in automotive sales affected this company? Probably not. Nah, it's just a coincidence. 1991, Yugo went bankrupt. So too did a number of other automotive manufacturers. Fancy the timing on that. Can you imagine? In the wake of the trough in 1990, a few automotive bankruptcies. Of course, that would never happen again, right? Oh, wait. What happened in 2009? General Motors went bankrupt. Chrysler went bankrupt and then got bailed out by US taxpayers. Of course, that would never happen again, right? It's not like, Fourth time's not the charm, right? What's the saying? 2's a coincidence, 3's an even bigger coincidence, and 4's an even bigger coincidence. It will never even happen, so don't worry about it. Yeah, exactly. So I think what I'm trying to say is if Cathie Wood and I invest right, and automotive sales do continue to remain cyclical, and interest rates remain sky high, and affordability and sentiment rock bottom, we definitely won't see a massive collapse in automotive sales in the next couple of years. And even if we were to see such a collapse, all the companies producing ICE vehicles especially will be fine. So nothing to see here, don't panic. And if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go sell all my Tesla stock and go all in on GM and Stellantis and Ford and Toyota and Volkswagen. Nothing could possibly go wrong. P.S. I'm officially announcing my run for Tesla's board of directors so I can force Tesla to start advertising, because obviously if they do that, they can keep selling their vehicles at today's prices and not have to keep passing on cost savings and or driving their prices lower, because the automotive industry isn't cyclical. And plus, even if it were, obviously you can just advertise your way out of a recession. So why don't you do that, Tesla, you dumbasses? Duh. Want more content? Early access? A bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. Athletic Greens AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. Athletic Greens AG1 is an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. It certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point and something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy, wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1, is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, This is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, snake oil salmon sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. And remember, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. There's nothing to lose here. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link at the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use.